Your home should support your life, not drain it. I'm Katie Trudeau, and this is the Whole Home Living Podcast. Here, we talk about simple, plant-forward eating, realistic rhythms, and small systems that help your home work with you, not against you. No perfection, no pressure, just practical shifts that make everyday life feel lighter, calmer, and more nourishing. Let's get into today's episode. Last week, I was on Threads and I read a post that said, quote, "With all the news about colon cancer lately, I looked up what I need to do to hit my fiber goals and I noped out." End quote. And I didn't laugh. There were plenty of people laughing in the comments saying, "I agree. Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy." And I just thought, wow, because I didn't think it was that hard. So where is this disconnect coming from? When you actually look at the recommendation, 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day, and you realize that you might only be hitting 10 or 12, that can feel overwhelming, especially if you're not used to eating whole, minimally processed foods. And then your brain says, nah, never mind. But here's why I don't want you to nope out. When I was a freshman in high school, my cousin died of colon cancer. He was young. He was in his early 20s, and it was shocking. You know, I had read about cancer in school. I read a story about a Japanese girl who had cancer after World War II. And to me, at that point in my life, cancer was just something that happened in a story. And now, or then, I should say, there's my cousin, my seemingly healthy looking cousin, now having cancer. And I still remember standing in my aunt's house when he came to visit from Colorado. He lived in Denver and he came over to Illinois to visit. And by that point, he had already had multiple surgeries. And he showed me his stomach at that point, and his scars formed a smiley face. But there was really nothing smiley about his situation or the end of his battle. The last thing he ever said to me before he headed back to Colorado was, "If any boys bother you, you give me a call." I was a freshman in high school, and I thought, this is great. Big protector cousin. I don't have a brother, so this was great to have a cousin, trying to protect me. But that was it. That was the last time I saw him, the last time I hugged him. When I hear that colon cancer rates are rising in younger adults, I'm paying attention, because anytime I hear any statistic remotely related to colon cancer, I'm thinking about my cousin. And that is where fiber comes in. Now, if you're looking at the news lately, you're seeing that colon cancer rates have been increasing in adults under 50, which is why screening guidelines have shifted a little bit earlier in recent years. Diet is not the only factor. Your genetics matter, your environment matters, screening matters, and diet is just one piece of the puzzle. But we know that fiber consistently shows up in the research. Higher fiber intake is associated with a lower colon cancer risk, lower LDL cholesterol, improved insulin sensitivity, more stable blood sugar, a healthier gut microbiome. That's a meaty list right there. So fiber is very important. And when fiber reaches your colon, the gut bacteria ferment it into short chain fatty acids like butyrate, which support colon cell health and reduce inflammation. This isn't just about colon health, though. Higher fiber intake is also strongly associated with improved heart health, including lower LDL cholesterol and reduced cardiovascular risk. So, what does that mean for fiber? It means that fiber is a protector of both your gut and your heart health. This is not fringe wellness. This is not woo-woo. This is established nutrition science. Now, I do have an important note here that some digestive conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, diverticulitis, IBS, or if you have a history of bowel, or your fiber recommendations can vary. So increasing fiber too quickly or choosing certain types of fiber can worsen your symptoms. So if you already know you have a diagnosed digestive disorder, talk with your healthcare provider before you make any changes. All that to say, fiber is powerful, but it is not one size fits all. For most people, though, gradual increases are safe and beneficial. So, back to my initial story with the threads and the person who is noping out of the dietary recommendations for fiber. I want to ask you, why do you think people are noping out? Maybe it's because it just feels big. If your typical day includes refined grains, low carb meals, minimal beans, juice instead of whole fruit, if you are protein heavy but plant light, it is very easy to land under 15 grams per day. In fact, only 7% of Americans actually reach that 30%. That's not a lot of people. So jumping straight to 30 can feel extreme. But empowered nutrition, that's the E in the HEART method, isn't about jumping. It's about adding. Powered doesn't mean restrictive. Powered means informed. It means you're understanding why something matters rather than just doing it blindly, and you're building it in gradually. The E is all about designing your system so that the default supports you, so that your default kitchen supports you, so that your default weekly meals support you. You don't want to overhaul your life. You hear people say that, I just need to overhaul everything. No, you have to adjust the system. So let me show you what 30 grams actually looks like. All right, we're going to talk about breakfast here. You get a bowl of steel-cut oats. This is my current obsession. I got the big bag online from Anthony's, and they're just delicious. But you can get a bowl of steel-cut oats. You get 4 grams of fiber. If you add 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, that's another 5 grams. And if you add some berries, that's 3 or 4 grams. Again, that can depend on how many berries you put in. So with breakfast alone, that shakes out to be about 12 grams. All right, let's move to lunch now. So we're going to put our 12 grams aside. For lunch, we've got a big salad with mixed greens, vegetables, and half a cup of chickpeas. That's another 6 grams. If you add in the vegetables, you're easily over 20. Then you've got an apple for an afternoon snack. All right, now for dinner, let's make something I make a lot is a rice and bean bowl. If you have half a cup of black beans, that's 7 grams of protein. Brown rice can give you a few more grams. Before we add any of our toppings to our dinner, we're already comfortably in the 30s. This is not an extreme diet. This is something I eat very close to every day. The steel-cut oats, salads, rice and bean bowls. This is just plant-forward plates. So if you're currently at 12 grams or less, don't try to jump to 35 tomorrow. Try to get to 5. Try to add 5. So maybe tomorrow, try to get to 17 grams. Let your gut adjust. Then the next day, add 5 more. Okay, these small changes compound over time. So when I think back to that Threads post, the I noped out person, I understand that feeling. That number can look clinical, it can look intimidating, but I don't want you to think about fiber as a number. I want you to think about stewardship. I want you to think about responsibility. Just responsibility. Fiber doesn't trend the way that protein does. Protein has a great marketing team behind it, but no one's out there, selling fiber coffee the way that, protein does. Fiber doesn't come in flashy packaging. Usually the packaging is the peel on the fruit or vegetable that you're going to eat, but fiber can protect your heart and colon. It supports your digestive health. It supports your heart health. It does help stabilize blood sugar. It feeds gut bacteria, and your gut microbiome helps regulate your immune system. And this is exactly why fiber sits inside the empowered nutrition pillar in the HEART framework. Empowered means you don't react emotionally to headlines, but it also means you don't ignore them either. You understand what matters, you make small adjustments, and you let the systems that you put into your house do the work. So when I think about my cousin, I don't feel panic. I feel clarity. And clarity leads to small, steady actions. And again, if you're at 12 today, add 5. That's it. Don't nope out. Just add 5. That's empowered. And that's how empowered health is built. One steady, informed decision at a time. See you next time. If today's episode was helpful, take a moment to share it with someone who could use a little more ease around food and home. You can also leave a review. It helps more families find whole home living. For simple resources, practical tools, and upcoming workshops, visit wholehomeliving365.com. And remember, eating well doesn't require perfection. It just needs a system that works with your life. I'm Katie Trudeau. See you next time.